Michael Gove, of course, newly re-elected as an MP, Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, key member of the Cabinet. Now, you're preparing your Queen's speech. Changes, we understand, in the EU withdrawal bill. What are they designed to achieve?
Well, they're designed to ensure that we can leave on the 31st, as we said we would in the manifesto, and they're there to make sure that the House of Commons has an opportunity properly to scrutinise the bill, but also that we can get it done promptly. And that means that the Queen's speech, as you know, will be on Thursday, and then the withdrawal agreement bill will have its second reading on Friday. Prime Minister will open that debate. My colleague Steve Barclay will close it. Then there'll be a brief break for Christmas, and then the bill will be scrutinised on the floor of the House.
And to put it into law, as we understand it, that there'll be no extension of the extension period beyond the end of 2020.
Absolutely.
So isn't that putting a gun to Britain's head, if you like, because if there's no agreement, it means that we'll be leaving without a deal?
Well, both sides, in the political declaration, the document that goes alongside the withdrawal agreement, have committed themselves to concluding the new relationship that we have after we've left the European Union by the end of 2020.
Not the European Union, haven't they? They've said that proper negotiations will take longer.
It's there in the political declaration. They're committed to it in black and white.
So you believe you'll have what done? Everything done? Trade deal, the whole lot?
Yes.
And will that get priority over negotiations with the United States, for example?
I think that we'll be talking to other countries as well, because what we want to do is to make sure that we have the opportunity outside the European Union to deepen relations with other countries. I don't know which of those countries will be the first alongside the EU to conclude a new trade deal with us, but it will certainly be the case that we'll be operating at pace to get those deals done.
And how are you going to reorganise government to do that? Because I think it's accepted that
Well, the Prime Minister's reviewing the shape of government at the moment, and he wants to make sure, obviously, that we deliver and that we're focused not just on getting good deals with the European Union, but also focused on making sure that for the many people who voted Conservative for the first time, they see a government that's on their side. And that means making sure that we deliver on the NHS, that we improve educational opportunity, that we crack down on crime effectively, and we spread growth more equally.
Say, for example, the Department for exiting the European Union, that will come to an end when we leave.
Well, these are decisions for the Prime Minister, and I really don't want to preempt him in that regard.
If you could pick a job other than being Prime Minister, what would that job be in this new government?
Oh, if you're a minister, you don't get a pick.
No, I understand that, but you could have an opinion.
Yes, but I think that...
I mean, would you like to be in charge of either the transition to leave the European Union or indeed external trade?
I will do what I'm told.
And the other thing that we're told is this war on Whitehall. What does that consist of?
Yeah, I think that's a sort of highly coloured version of what the Prime Minister wants to do, which is to make sure that government is more effective in delivering for people. The Prime Minister, I and other ministers know that we're ultimately accountable to the electorate for delivery. Therefore, we need to make sure that the really brilliant people in Whitehall are operating in a way that maximises government's effectiveness.
I mean, you've been there for 9 years already, Conservatives. I mean, what is Whitehall not doing that it should be doing?
Well, I think, again, I don't want to criticise any individual department, and I certainly have found that during the time that I've been in government that I've benefited from having superb support from the civil service. They're wonderful. But we can always do better. We can do better in delivering infrastructure projects on budget and on time, and we can do better in making sure that people see rapid progress from government announcing that things are going to change to delivery on the ground.
Isn't this just a personal obsession of Dominic Cummings that really doesn't have much basis in fact?
No. I don't.
I mean, when he worked for you, in education, you talked about the blob. He's obviously got a bee in his bonnet about the establishment political structures, but you are still the Conservative Party, even if you're the Red Tories.
Oh, well, we are the Conservative Party, but we're also conscious that there are lots of people who voted Conservative for the first time.
Yeah.
And some who may have paused before lending us their votes. Right. Therefore, it's really important...
So you kick the civil service to make them feel better?
No, it's really important that we deliver. It's not about kicking anyone. It is about making sure that the whole machine of government works as effectively as possible. People work incredibly hard. They have placed their faith in this government. They want to make sure that government is working equally hard for them.
Is it, for example, giving the executive more power to overrule what we've come to understand as the normal processes the Constitution?
Oh, no. I think it's really important that we recognise that in the UK we're blessed with having robust political institutions, and it's important that they stay robust, but it's also the case, like all governments, that we need from time to time to look to make sure that we're delivering effectively.
So what's that bit in the manifesto about reviewing the Supreme Court, for example, or reviewing the judicial system?
I think it's important that we look at our constitution overall and make sure that it's working effectively, but we're very, very lucky that we have a brilliant independent judiciary.
Do you think it worked effectively over the prorogation, or do you feel bruised about that?
No, I think the Supreme Court took a view, and the court being the Supreme Court in the land, it's a view that one has to respect.
But should it be able to take that sort of view? I mean, that's the question, whether you limit.
Of course, that is the Supreme Court's role.
Now, not very reformist, is it, to appoint someone who's just stopped being an MP back to the cabinet as Culture Secretary in the personage of Nicky Morgan?
Well, Nicky is brilliant. I mean, we're lucky to have her. She's a fantastic minister. But more than that, it is the case that previous prime ministers have had people in the cabinet of talent who've been in the House of Lords. So Tony Blair had Charlie Faulkner. Charlie Faulkner is a considerable figure. Gordon Brown had Peter Mandelson, another significant and weighty figure. Both of them were cabinet ministers and in the House of Lords. So there are all sorts of examples of other prime ministers doing this.
It just seems a bit odd that someone said, I'm going to give up, and then they come back in the House of Lords,
Well, I think, to be fair, I think that Nicky is someone who was persuaded by the Prime Minister, and she has a very strong feeling of public service, and we are lucky to have her. And
do you think you'd be able to handle a hot potato like what to do about the BBC and the licence fee when the cabinet minister responsible is sitting in the House of Lords?
Yes, I think that, one thing that's clear is that the BBC is a great broadcaster. We all benefit as a result of the BBC's role in public life. The media climate changes. And that means that we need to review how funding for the BBC can be kept sustainable in the future. But one thing that nobody should be in any doubt about is that the BBC is a great British institution, a bastion of quality, independent and objective journalism, and we need to support it.
Do you think that not paying the licence fee needs to be decriminalised?
Well, that's not a matter for me, and I think that I'm sure that we'll be looking at the whole question, but my view is there are conversations to be had, not by me, with the BBC in order to make sure that we can move towards sustainable funding which allows the BBC to continue doing great work.
Because I suppose they feel a little bit sore that they thought everything had been agreed up until 2027, and it now seems to be back on the agenda.
Again, I haven't been party to those conversations, but I'm a licence fee payer myself. I appreciate the service the BBC provides, but we live in a more plural, for want of a better word, media climate, and we have broadcasters like Sky itself and so on, who provide a high-quality service as well.
I mean, did you feel when you were Justice Secretary that dealing with the licence fee and prosecuting people was placing an unnecessary burden on the system?
It was something that we looked at. I was only Justice Secretary for a relatively brief period, and it is the case that it was one of those issues that was brought to my attention. So my successor, I know, will want to look at it as well.
But was there a problem?
Well, again, having done the job, and with someone else now in that job, I'm not going to preempt the conclusions they must come to. It would be wrong of me. I know the Justice Secretary, Robert Buckland, will give a great deal of careful thought.
And finally, who do you most fear as the next leader of the Labour Party?
Caroline Flint.
Caroline Flint. You think she's a runner?
Well, sadly, she's ineligible at the moment because she's no longer an MP. And this is the tragedy the Labour Party faces at the moment. That some of the people who would be best equipped to lead it in the future, like Caroline, like Ian Austin and like John Woodcock, are no longer in the Labour Party.
OK, Michael Gove, thank you very much indeed.